Today we have Bhumi talking about.
I was a tomboy. I think by mistake, God just put me in a woman's body. I used to love driving fast cars. I was into rallying and racing. Post delivery, I remember I completely stopped driving and I had no confidence left. I was actually in a live in with my husband.
So, hi Bhumi.
Hi, Shobna.
Bhumi, the stage is yours. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Bhumija. My nickname is Bhumi.
I've only known you as Bhumi.
Yeah, so Bhumija means Sita. And my
Okay.
friends always made fun of me because, they're like Bhumi Ja. And then they kept my name as Bhumi A. So I'm like, okay, just call me Bhumi.
Bhumi.
So,
Bhumi.
that's simpler.
Got it.
And I asked my parents, why Sita? I don't know how lucky that is, but yeah, I love my name.
But she's very different from your actual personality, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely. I'm totally the opposite of Sita.
Right.
But yeah, so here I am. I am going through my midlife crisis, which is perimenopause. And, I've always been in corporate for the last 20 years. I am a pet parent. I have a Frenchie. And I have an 11-year-old son. And I have another son, which is my husband. So, in short,
Aren't they
that's what I
always the oldest or maybe the youngest sons, right? Where does he fall in the hierarchy of age?
I think he's the youngest.
Young. Okay, lovely. So, why don't you tell a little bit about Aryaman?
Aryaman he's a very smart and an intelligent child, extremely emotional, at the same time extremely aggressive. He articulates whatever he wants very well, very expressive. He loves socializing with people, irrespective of what their age is. So, anybody, whether somebody younger to him or older to him, our age too, can just have natural, great conversations with him for hours.
Lovely. So it's three of you and a beautiful dog, right?
Yes.
So how long has your pet been with you, your second child?
Yes, the middle one.
The middle one, sorry. We come to the youngest later.
So this is actually our third. So we had
Okay.
a retriever before, then we had a boxer. The name is Bingo. So Bingo has been with us for more than a year now. He's
Right.
still, 1.5, 2 years old.
Young.
Very young.
Pretty young.
Yeah, and
Okay.
very stubborn.
Very stubborn. So who's the most stubborn amongst the kids, including Yogesh?
That's a tough question. So I'm not sure if everybody can answer that, but it's
I'm
really
the most stubborn.
That's true. I think definitely it's Bingo who's extremely stubborn, but nevertheless, if I have to compare, I think all of them are stubborn. Yeah. It runs in the family.
So tell me a little bit about your life before motherhood.
I love talking about it because I was a crazy person. I was a tomboy. I think by mistake, God just put me in a woman's body. And I remember I used to get my salary, and the entire thing I used to just blow up on my car. And when I say car, its accessories were like putting compomotive wheels and putting a sports seat on it. And I don't know what all crazy stuff I did. I've troubled my parents a lot. Yeah, so I was a very difficult child, a very difficult teenager, I must say. I had a thing for extreme adventure. I would just get into the mood and I would say, hey, I want to go for paragliding. And, I would just go to any hill station and just go for it. I used to love driving fast cars, and I was into rallying and racing. Of course, not at a professional level, at
Passion level.
Yeah, it was at a passion level. I had friends from the same circuit, so it was easier for me to get into that.
Right.
And I remember that I had a Zen first, and after that I had a Swift, which
This is the old Zen.
The old Zen, yeah.
The more beautiful
and,
Zen.
And it was a red Zen with white compomotive wheels.
Oh wow,
And,
so sporty.
I was crazy.
Right.
And then I still remember, there was this one night and there was a turn next to my house and there was a lot of gravel there. So I used to love drifting. And I was not, acing drifting, of course. I was not that great.
But you do practice, right? I mean, how else do you ace it unless you practice the drifting?
But there was one day where I was wearing heels, like literally stilettos, and I was trying to drift and my heel got stuck in the mat, and instead of drifting properly, I just banged into one pillar.
Oh my God.
And my mom was standing there near the balcony, and for her it was like this is just one of the cases that she does. After 10 days, I got my car back and I again
Tried the drifting.
And then
this time I wore sneakers.
But it still happened. So
Still crashed. So it's not about the stilettos.
So I was crazy because, you know, I didn't fear anything. At 3 at night, I would just go anywhere, do anything. My cousin would describe me as a free bird. I was extremely social. I remember in college, two people playing basketball. I just went up to them, started playing basketball, and the next thing you know is that I was having lunch and dinner with them. You know, they were like my closest buddies. So God knows, you know,
How
what
you make
morning-
friends. Yeah,
so
that's
I used to
beautiful.
make friends very easily.
Were you the only child, or did you have siblings?
I've always been the only child.
Okay.
I've been extremely close to my mom.
Right.
She's like my closest friend till date. No matter what, I have always been able to go up to her and share whatever I wanted.
I want to understand her perspective first. So she, as a mother, saw you going paragliding, saw you going drifting in stilettos and crashing on the corners, and going for rally racing and spending your salary on this brand new engine that you modify, and you had two actually sporty hatchbacks. You are the daughter, right? And at that generation and age always looked at daughters in a very different light. So what was your dynamics, or were there any conversations that you had with them as them being a parent and you being the daughter, trying to help them cope up with this situation?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I keep asking my mom pretty often now that since I have a kid, how could you tolerate, you know, and give me this kind of freedom and be all cool about it?
Right.
The truth is that they were not cool about it.
Okay.
Of course, you know, in their heart they were like scared.
Of course.
But there are two parts to it. So the first one is they felt that you know, she's anyways going to do it, so might as well give her that freedom. At
Right.
least she's coming back and sharing it with us. That was the first part.
Got it.
And the second part was, anyway, she's not going to listen to us, so let her do what she wants to. So I just hope my son doesn't watch this.
Did they fear the worst for you?
They did.
Okay.
So, and I remember, you know, I've shared this with my husband too. It's nothing related to the question you asked, but it's funny.
Right.
There was a boy who wrote a letter to me. I
Okay.
hate calling it a love letter now because, you know,
It's cheesy.
yeah.
Ah.
So he wrote a letter to me, and what would a mom typically do? You know, she would maybe scold you, and you know, like, who's written it?
Right.
My mom didn't do that.
Oh.
She took the paper and with a red pen, she underlined all the grammatical mistakes. And she got that letter up.
This is why you should not date the guy.
And she's like, do you see how many grammatical mistakes are there in this letter? How can you date such a guy?
Oh, that is so cool.
And I was just taken aback. What? You know, this is not the response I was expecting from her. But anyways, coming back to the topic, yes, my parents had a lot of fear. There was a time when my mom just felt that she is unable to handle me. And, you know, she was taking help from her mom and, you know, from her brother, who I was very scared of.
Right.
Although I was very naughty, but at the same time, I had that respect and love for my parents. So no matter what I did, end of the day, they knew that I'm going to come back to them. So, and sooner or later, they realized that. Of course, there was a phase where they felt, ये तो हाथ से निकल गई अब. You know, she's बिगड़ गई.
बिगड़ गई.
भाग गई ये तो. But then there was a phase when I went to the US for my further studies, and that's when, you know, I got that kind of exposure, and I realized that what kind of friends to make, and, you know, how to manage life, how to manage your finances. And when I came back, I was a changed person. So from being a very spendthrift person, I became a very conjuice person. So. and smart enough and caring for family.
Sometimes I feel that it takes time away and independent living to actually bring about the value of being with family and the value of the money. Because while you're with your family, you don't even realize that you're spending so much.
that's
It's
true.
like, kabhi humne kar diya, kabhi unhone kar diya. But when you're eventually living on your own, it's where all the responsibilities come on your shoulder, and you need to really be cautious. And that's where the learning happens.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
true.
So yeah, wonderful. So I'm very much in awe of how your family and your mother has been handling these scenarios where parents generally would have been extremely nervous, especially when it comes to a girl.
Yeah.
So you said that you would even spend a day away or spend the night away. Did you have maybe a phone in your hand that your parents could connect with you? Or back then, because I understand while we were younger, there were hardly devices in our hand to go back and connect with our parents. So were they okay when you didn't show back at a time, or did you never promise time? Like, how was that situation?
So there's a story behind this too. There was a time when, you know, I used to go for my tuitions, and there were no phones.
Got it.
There were just
Huh.
landlines,
Right.
and I would just be missing. So, the tuition is for 1 hour, but I come back after 4 hours, and my mom is like, "Where were you?" And after that, it just became like a routine, and then she got used to it. But yes, once I had a phone, I think I was still unreachable at times. So it was
No network.
no network. Uh, but yeah, the good thing is that by the time I was in, when I got a phone, I was in that age where I was mature enough to let my mom know
Right.
that, I'll be going out for a movie. And I remember we were in Gurgaon. First time we had a McDonald's very close to our house. So I used to just venture out, go there, watch a movie. And I remember my mom got a call from one of her friends. We just saw your daughter with literally like 14 boys. And then, my mom didn't really react to it. And she's like, yeah, you can include her as a 15th boy. So don't look at it that there's one girl and, 14 boys.
Yeah. So you had more friends amongst guys than girls because you probably your wavelengths match better with guys than they did with girls. Is that true?
That's true. I had my friends who would, get their threading done, and they would wear sunscreen and come to, school and
Right.
college. And I was one who would be like totally tanned and didn't care about my looks, just wearing a cap all the time and playing with all the boys. So
Right.
yeah, so that's how I was.
So how did you meet Yogesh then?
Although we are married and we are husband and wife, but if you look at how we are, I think we could be siblings. So
I don't think he'd be happy to hear that.
so we were together in college for a couple of months, and he didn't like the college and he moved away. And I happened to just connect with him through a common friend. I was in Bangalore and I happened to meet him. I'd come here for work, and things just clicked. He just felt that, hey, finally I have a woman in my life who's very similar to me, identical twin, who loves drinking, who loves partying, who's as crazy as me.
Right.
And it just happened. We started talking and we started dating, and then I told and my parents had given up, by the way. They told me that we're going to buy you a separate house, we can't tolerate you for very long, and we know nobody's going to marry you. So they literally bought a house for me, and they told
And
me,
you got a guy for you.
and my father told me that now for 2 years don't talk about marriage, because whatever I had, I've put that into
In
the
the
house.
house.
In 4 months, I came back to him. Hey, I think I found a guy, and I'm not sure about him, but he's in Bangalore, and I would like to move there. And coming back to your first question, I was actually in a live-in with my husband, and my parents knew about it because I told them that I want to test him, be with him for a year, and then see whether it works out or not. And I still don't understand how could they just digest that fact and be okay with it? They weren't, but yeah.
So what do they, if today when you ask back, what was their take at it? Because back then, it's a very forward step.
Yeah.
It's a step, especially when it comes to a country like India. It isn't very commonly seen, so it's an extremely forward step. So on one end, I appreciate the fact that you were so honest with your parents, and you trusted the fact that they would be okay with it, which is why you brought it up to them, and they kept that trust. I mean, it's not that they were against the whole idea. So I'm that dynamic itself speaks volumes about your relationship. But I'm just curious to know what was their mindset at that point, because there is just so much more social pressure back then.
Yeah. One thing about my parents is I remember, people just walking up to my parents and me when I was 24, 25, asking, what are your plans for marriage? And my dad is like, that's none of your business. It's our personal life. Whenever she wants to get married, she will. And if she doesn't want to, she won't. So, so just leave it at that. So that's how my dad was, and he still is. And I keep asking my mom, and I get the same answer that you would have either ways
Done it.
stayed with him. So might as well let
We
us
know.
know and do it. So a very simple answer.
Beautiful. I mean, she's my hero.
You need
She
guts.
is.
You need guts to do that.
You do. And back then, it's pretty surprising that your parents were vocal about it, they were open about it, they were comfortable about it, and they were very accepting of everything that you did. So I think they brought you up in a very, very unique fashion.
And what I want to mention is that the kind of freedom that they gave to me, of course, as a teenager, you tend to misuse it. Now, when I look back, apart from the teenage years, kind of freedom I got, it actually brought in that maturity in me. What is right? What is wrong? What is off limit? And what are the things you can do? So I think when I look back now that I'm praising myself right now, but I think
No, it's
you know,
worth a
I've-
praise.
I
It's-
think I've been a great kid minus the teenage years. And-
Teenage years, everybody is a rebel.
Yeah.
But it's a very beautiful point that you just said. When a parent gives you the freedom, is where a child actually respects that freedom.
Yeah.
And it works both ways. It's a very mutual relationship because I trust you and you trust me back to be honest about it.
Yeah.
And you will not misuse it and you will accept the consequences as they come and then you learn from it and then you'll grow from it. Isn't it obvious that children will make those mistakes while they are learning and they are experimenting with the way they are living their lives? So,
and it gave me that window to explore things and figure out myself what is right or wrong.
correct.
So,
Independent thinking, right?
yeah.
And that is the real nature of independent thinking. Unless you have been given the freedom to make a decision,
yeah.
probably fall in certain cases. Right? Only then you learn how to rise.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a fabulous way of parenting, and I'm hoping to move in that direction myself. Because I want to be able to guide my children to be independent thinkers, not worry about failures or errors or whatever it is that they're making today is a part and parcel of them growing as individuals and
Absolutely.
being a more solid person as they grow older, being okay with any challenge that comes their way. So I think it's a beautiful way of upbringing that your parents have incorporated early on. So have you taken that forward today with Arjuman? Is that something that you bring forward to him?
So there are two things to it.
I love that reaction, like, now that I'm a mom today.
Yeah. It's tough. It's definitely tough. I think I'm a control freak. I hate saying it, on camera especially.
It's honest.
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty.
But I think I'm a control freak for sure. It takes a lot of efforts for me not to control his actions.
Right.
Be it for very simple things like you have to fold your quilt, your room is too messy, clean it up, and you need to go keep your plate. I don't know, somehow it just comes naturally to me, and that's how I've seen it in my house. But I think that our generation and this generation, they're very different. While I try my best, I think somewhere or the other I have to keep checking myself.
Understood.
There are days where I give him the freedom. I let him do what he wants to do. But at the same time, I try to limit certain things. For example, it's okay if you want to go out and play. It's very important. I think it's a right balance of studies as well as playing. But it should not be that you're not studying at all, or you're just completely out playing. So. He's like, Ma, I have my friends who are playing out, and what a monster you are, you're just making me study all the time. I'm like, just 20 minutes of studying and then do what you want to do.
Right.
And I'm very, very strict when it comes to certain things like time. If you have to get up at 5:15 in the morning, you have to make sure that you're in bed by 8:30, not later than that. So I am very strict about certain things.
Right.
And pretty lenient about things which I feel
there can be leniency in
leniency.
that. So I think the things that you're strict about is discipline and routine, and this
Absolutely.
is the age where you need to set that amount of discipline in life. So when they have certain routines that they start appreciating, I think as they grow older, that stays, and over and above that, they fill in the other areas and pockets with other aspects that they're interested in too.
Yeah.
So I think this is also important, where you are helping them grow into disciplined beings, and this is the age where if too much freedom is given and you're not letting them understand that studies are important, then they will probably be very free about it, and that to develop that at a later stage, I think becomes more difficult.
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
there was a time where I would just tell him, it's okay if you don't study. He was very young. And I still remember my grandmom just called me up and she's like, Avara ban jayega, padhai nahi kar paoge to, she's like,
Right.
and I'm like, no, he's too young, let him have the freedom. And then she's like, no, you need to set a routine. And if you don't set that routine, he's never going to
Grow into it.
grow into it. And I would like to quote an example here, and I'm very proud of it. I've not been somebody who loves reading, but my husband, he reads a lot. And I wanted to inculcate that habit in my son too. So right from the beginning, I read about it, I researched about it, how to create that reading habit.
Right.
And it all starts from a bedtime routine. And I used to invest, if when I look back, 1.5 to 2 hours per day in the evenings, where I would read the level 1 stories to him. Then there was a time, when he came to level 2 or level 3, where I would read a story, he would read a story. There were
Right.
books which just had images. My sister-in-law, every time she would be coming from the US and she would say, what do you want? I would just ask her for books, that, these are the
Understood.
books I need. So I was able to develop that habit into him early on, and that habit still remains.
Nice.
So he
Yeah.
cannot sleep till he reads for at least 30 minutes.
So this is the routine aspect that we are talking about. So if you
Yes.
set these routines kind of early, they grow into it. As much as we want to incorporate the balance comes only when there are certain routines in place, right?
Yeah.
You said that prior to motherhood, you were so adventurous and you did paragliding and you did rally driving. So do you continue that even today?
Not at all. So,
Oh.
earlier I would just tell people it's a very expensive sport to maintain.
Right.
So, I can't. But over a period of time, I realized that I think I've changed as a person.
Okay.
Earlier, I remember I would sit in a flight and I would always be on the window seat. I used to get some sort of thrill, when the plane would take off. I love speed.
Right.
And there was a time when I stopped driving completely. So, during my pregnancy, I was on bed rest for 4 months.
Okay.
And, so anyways, I was not driving during that phase. I was totally avoiding. And post delivery, I remember I completely stopped driving and I had no confidence left. So my mom was over from Delhi and I had to take her to the mall. I was trying to book something or maybe look for an auto to take her to the mall. And she's like, there's a car parked. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to drive in the traffic. And this is when the mall was just 1.5 kilometers away from home. I took out the car with my mom, somehow, got that courage in me. And I'm like, oh, let me just try driving today. I reached till the gate and I saw traffic. And I got so scared that I just took a U-turn and I came back home and parked the car. And I'm like, no ways, we're going to take an auto or a cab and go to the mall. So from loving speed, I totally changed as a person and got so scared that for 2 years I didn't drive. But thanks to my husband, he kept pushing me and he's like, today you'll have to take the car to work. And I don't know how he was so chill about it. He was not sitting next to me and he's like, just take the car, I don't care.
Right.
And slowly, gradually, I regained that confidence.
So from a person who used to wear stilettos and crash, okay, while drifting, and probably was very comfortable with traffic. So there was no particular fear before traffic or the speeds on the highways. Generally, people fear that because they are jittery on the wheels. But you obviously have had so much experience being on the wheels, rally driving on Himalayas and those terrains. Do you think the switch happened because did you start fearing your life and maybe in the process your child being dependent on you?
Yeah, I think it is to do with that because these changes suddenly came when my son was born, and I was very careful. And if my husband would just tell me, if Yogesh would just tell me that let's go to Ooty, or let's go to a hill station, I would just look for excuses not to go to a hill station because in my head it was like, no, the turns are going to be steep, there'll be hairpins, let's not go there at all. And I think this fear was stemming out of my child's safety as well as, like you rightly said, I need to be safe for my son. So yes, and a lot of other changes too, so this was related to fear, but there were some other changes too, which I think a lot of mothers go through, like I think the change of taste. I used to love chocolates, and from that I suddenly started liking fruits more than chocolates. When I say fruits,
Healthy
I'm
mom.
not talking about fruits, like fruit pastries and fruit flavored ice
Just
creams.
getting into healthy mom zone. Right.
But yeah, I think a lot of things changed. I got this. I think I feel very claustrophobic too, post delivery. Intentionally we have a house on a lower floor
Hmm.
because I would just fear getting into the elevators. So,
Oh, wow.
you know,
Okay. Right.
and
Got it.
now
Understood. Yeah.
in the flight, instead of sitting on the window seat, you will always see me
On the aisle?
on the aisle.
So you can walk around a bit,
I can
is
walk
it?
around and I don't have to look out of the window.
Oh, heights as well?
Not heights, just I don't know, just a fear. So
Just a
that's
fear. Okay. It's always difficult to tap on why the fear happens, because if it happens, it happens. Generally, postpartum, most struggles that women face, they don't recognize the person they are today, because that's the amount of things that have changed from pre to postpartum, you know. And one of the biggest factors is actually the hormones. And that's one aspect of the body that changes, which is not visible.
Yeah.
You know, the hormones are always on the inside, and they are changing so much within you, and that shows out in different actions that you do. What was that one thing that you had to tell yourself in order to finally get into that car? I know Yogesh has a big hand in pushing you to sit in that car and overcome that fear, but finally the person who had to hold that steering and do the driving all the way to your workplace, like you said, is you. So what was it that you had to tell yourself to overcome all that was going and running inside your mind? Because nobody else can understand that better than you.
So, there's a story that I want to share.
Right.
And, post delivery, I was on a road trip with my cousins. And, while we were in the car, I just happened to see a cow. And I don't know, out of nowhere, I just told my cousins, I feel like a cow. Because I just keep eating and
Feeding.
eating and feeding.
We are dairy cows, right? In a way, walking, talking dairy machines.
And my cousins just laughed about it, but I was so serious when I look back. I was like so serious when I said that, and I'm like, why are they laughing? I'm like so sad about it, depressed about the fact that I feel like a cow, I smell like a cow, and I also look like a cow. So
True. We all did.
and
Right.
and I didn't look at myself in the mirror for almost 7 to 8 months.
Rightly said.
Shocking. I never looked at myself, but I remember first earlier I would be wearing my husband's t-shirts, and then I moved to my dad's t-shirts, and then finally I stopped fitting into his t-shirts too. And I still didn't realize that what's going on. And then I happened to see there was Raksha Bandhan, and there was a photo of me with all my cousins, and when I looked at that photo, that's when I finally realized, oh my God, is that really me? And people at work didn't recognize me. So, I would go to work and people would just look at me and say, hey, congratulations, which month? And I'm like, what do you mean by
Oh my
what month?
God.
My son is like already 6 months old. So yeah, that was a time. But coming back to your question, things changed. And once my son started growing up, when he was 1.5, I started telling myself I need to take control over my life. I need to get back to what I was earlier, not entirely, but a couple of things. And of course, Yogesh did have a big hand in helping me out and, snapping out of that zone. Slowly, gradually, there are a lot of things I followed. One is that I started driving, taking out the car, telling myself, no, I can do it. I would not drive in the rain, but then I would force myself, no, it's raining, doesn't matter. I'm not going to take a cab. I have to take out the car and I have to drive.
Nice.
I changed some of my hobbies. I started baking. I love cooking. I love eating.
Right.
So I started baking for my son, for myself. That's different that, I would bake for him, but I would end up eating everything. So, and that still happens. I started reading about things and I started socializing again. Yes, another part is I had totally stopped talking to people from being somebody who was very social.
Oh.
I totally moved away from that, and I happened to get, a role where I was working in the hybrid environment. So I was going to office once or twice a month, maybe. I don't know. I just moved into that zone where I would not talk to people. So I finally snapped out of it, where I got a job where it was totally, in office. I had to be there 5 days a week. I still remember there were these awkward moments in the elevator when I would be with a colleague and I would not know what to talk about, because I had just not got that practice of talking to people anymore.
Right.
Then I moved myself out of that comfort zone where I would take up challenging projects where I have to facilitate as well as talk to people. Even in the apartment, I would move out and talk to people, irrespective of the age. And I actually ingrained that into my son too. It's not only your friends who you need to talk to when you see old people. Take their blessings, touch their feet, talk to them, ask them how their day was. If you see anybody move, help them. Smaller kids, guide them. So, because I think, irrespective of the age, you should be talking to people. You should know what kind of conversations to strike. So, I started getting that back into me, and I'm glad that I was able to snap out of that zone.
It took a lot of step by step and I think small bit of effort with every stage, whether it is talking to people, whether it was driving, whether it was anything else that you had to restart.
Yeah.
It was doing it almost from, let's say, a blank slate and working your way up level by level.
Yeah.
So,
And to add on to what you're saying, Shobna, I have always made very well informed decisions in life.
got it.
I don't know before my son was born, but definitely
After.
after. So,
Right.
any corporate job that I joined, I knew that, okay, this is a time when I would need the flexibility. This is the time when I can move away from that flexibility. So, I've been grateful to God that whatever I thought of, I was able to get those kinds of roles and be
Right.
able to strike that work-life balance. But when I also say well-informed decisions, I have always done a lot of self-reflection. I don't know if it's good or bad. Sometimes it really gets on to you.
Of course. Yeah.
So you need to just tell yourself, okay, stop. But I have always reflected back on what I do every night. I reflect back on what I did the entire day and try to learn from it.
Right.
And that is what made me snap out of it and tell myself, no, good, you made progress on this. Now what is that you're going to do tomorrow? So that really helped.
You were basically your own therapist in a way.
I was my own therapist.
And you
And
did a
now-
great job at it. Well done. So you were carefree, and then you became extremely cautious about yourself. Did that translate down to your son as well? Like when you see him doing certain activities today, I'm sure it's not as adventurous yet. There would be certain aspects that he does, or you see him hanging maybe upside down from a monkey bar. Do you see yourself facing those fears that you see for yourself? Do you see that trickling down to your son too?
Funnily, my son isn't adventurous at all. So, there are days when I send him to the monkey bar and I tell him, can you just, do
Hang.
just hang. He doesn't know how to hang. He's 11, he doesn't know. And I'm like, okay, he's not got those qualities at all from me.
Right.
But there are certain things. I've been a very aggressive person. And when I say aggressive, not really like shouting and screaming, but I do have a certain level of aggression in me when something triggers me. Sometimes my emotions just blow out of proportion, and I see that happening in my son.
Okay.
And he's going through his preteens, and this is an age where he's confused how to express his feelings. And he happens to sometimes out of aggression just scream or shout or overreact. And I've been reading about it. I've been hearing people say that kids try to mimic what they see at home, and that makes me realize, is it me who's been doing this all the time?
Right.
So it's a constant. I think learning doesn't stop, and I'm
course.
from learning and development, so it's like my favorite line, that learning doesn't stop. So as and when I keep looking at my son, I don't think I'm perfect or he's perfect. As and when I look at him, I keep learning from that.
Right.
And I always tell him that the first important thing in life is that you need to be a kind and a nice person at heart.
Right.
And be grateful to God for whatever He's given to you. So I think that is one thing I've been able to inculcate in him.
Right.
And slowly, gradually, maybe once the preteens phase is over, I don't know how he's going to grow up to be. But yes, what my parents did, and I always tell my mom, please don't mind me saying this, Mom, but while there are great things that she did, I try to replicate that with my son. But there are also some things which I believe that she shouldn't have done. So I ensure that I don't do that. So, and I think one plus point is that I've been a naughty child. So my son can't fool me. So I'm able to, you know,
बेटे मैं तेरी माँ नहीं तेरी नानी हूँ.
so I'm able to tackle such situations well.
It's very new thing for parents in today's generation to be able to look at their children as a mirror.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing that really beautifully well. Parents find it very hard to accept that they have erred. But you looking back and saying, okay, you did this, but I'm assuming that you did this for whatever reason that you did, except that it is also reflecting back on me and maybe the way I have been doing things for you. How did that switch happen? It's a very difficult switch for a parent to overcome that ego and that belief that I cannot be erring or flawing in front of my child.
Yeah.
How can I be that?
I don't know if it's my nature from the beginning, but I've been very open to feedback, be it in the corporate world or be it, back home. Of course, I use my own brain too. But if somebody gives me feedback, I have an open ear. I listen to it and I act accordingly. I'm sure, there are some key takeaways that I go back with. I don't know, even my son, I am okay to say sorry to him. Like, there are days when I just blow my top and I don't shy away from walking up to him in the, at night when we're sleeping and apologize for what I did and tell him, I'm sorry, I had a bad day and I took it out on you. I shouldn't have done that. And I believe that what he's learned from that is it's okay to make mistakes. We all do. We're all human. But don't shy away from accepting the mistakes you've made and, trying to rectify it. So, and another thing that I observed is, during COVID, Yogesh used to read newspaper in the morning. And Sunday, my son got into this habit that he would get a newspaper and he would also try to use certain articles in it. And that made, that made me realize that he tries to copy, whatever Yogesh does or I do.
Correct.
More from the father, of course.
Being a boy. Huh. And growing boy.
Yes, and some wrong things too. Like, when we go to a party and, I started observing that he would sit on a tall chair and he will, sit exactly the way Yogesh would sit. And for some reason, he would ask for a glass and he would pour soda into it. I don't allow him soda, but, kids being kids, they have to take undue advantage when they're out. He would just pour soda into it and he would sit exactly like this,
and sipping it.
And
my son does that exactly the same. He will go, whenever we go to these restaurants, he loves sitting at the bar counter. Okay. And he will sit on this high chair, just like Ariman, and he would say, 1 glass water, please.
At least he asks for water. This boy asks for
soda, water, potato for them.
And I went back home and I told my husband, he just copies you. As a parent, you don't have to change yourself completely.
Right.
End of the day, what you are, there's something unique about you which you need to keep. But at the same time, try to strike that balance where at least the good things that you're doing, you're able to inculcate that in your child.
Very nicely said. I think it's very important even for children to understand that parents cannot always be sane either. We also have our range of emotions, just like them. Yeah. And if we are open to expressing those range of emotions and not feel guilty about it, if we can go ahead and apologize about it and learn to make things more accepting, they will also learn to have those range of emotions, which is natural. But at the end of the day, they'll be more accepting of it. They will learn to apologize for it when they do that. And at the same time, not feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
Because the examples that they have seen have also not felt guilty about it. So, Bhumi, this has been very, very enlightening, I must say that. So, now we're going to move out of the deep diving emotional ride that we were on and move into this fun element called the rapid fire round. So, you need to hit draw.
Okay.
And when you do, a number pops up. And I have a set of questions here. These are fun questions. Okay. So, feel free to answer it the way you like to, but you have to be quick.
She's intentionally kept the font so small that even if I want to, I can't read the question.
You just don't want to peep in, no cheating. I struggle right now, but I'm like, please go on, hit draw. One child-related decision that you and your hubby had to agree to disagree on.
So that's PS5. And where it stemmed from is we went for a holiday, first time
Okay.
without our son. There was a guilt stemming into, my husband that, we're on a vacation without our kid. Although I was very happy, trust me. I was happy. Yeah, so I think, he's like, I need to buy him a PS5 for his birthday gift. And I'm like, I think he's too young and I don't want to give him access to
Video games so
right
early.
now. But yes, of course, you can't win certain arguments from your husband. And I'm still not sure did he buy it for himself or for my son. I think he bought it for himself because it's him playing more.
A toy you bought thinking it would entertain your child, but now you are obsessed with it.
Lego.
So it's PS5 for Yogesh and Lego for you. In my rare moments of self-time, I secretly escape to do.
I just love meeting my friends. There was a time when, I was hardly meeting them and I was missing that friendship.
Understood,
So I make
right.
sure no matter what, at least 4 times a month, I take out that time to go out and spend quality time with them.
A snack you stock up often for yourself in the pretext of being your child's favorite.
Dark chocolate.
Oh.
So, and it always has to have the orange flavor, and my son hates orange dark chocolates.
And this is what, 70%, 90%?
It's 70%.
70%.
I can't go up to 90%.
Yet.
but Up to 70%.
Yet. What's the wildest thing you have Googled as a mom?
I think the latest one I did is not the craziest, but funny. I just wanted to ensure that my son and I go on a diet, not like a strict diet, but like a healthy diet.
Okay.
And, I Googled, and I think GPT got fed up of me because there was so many prompts that I put in saying that, this is what I like, this is what my son likes,
Stack overload, stack overload.
well, give me a chart, make these changes, get this variation. So I think that is the latest one I did.
So you're the first one to get Chat GPT cry.
I use that all the time. And there have been times when I was losing patience with my son.
Okay.
And I had to have a conversation, a very meaningful conversation with him, slow paced and relaxed.
Got it.
I took ChatGPT's help where I put the prompt, this is what he's done and I need to, somehow have a conversation with him. Give me some questions that I can ask. And it worked.
It's smart. It can play mother when it needs to.
It worked,
So you need to brainstorm with someone, right? And if at that moment that someone is not a person, you use ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I should be saying this, but from being a self-therapist, I realized that, GPT could be like a mini therapist.
I believe that very strongly, because there are times when you prompt it right. I mean, you have to prompt it right, but it comes back with some really mind-blowing answers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Guruji, dhanya ho. The best parenting lie you have told your child which has not been caught as yet.
I was a great kid. I've never
Listen to my
troubled
parents,
I used to
always.
listen to them always. And yeah, that, and my son used to believe me till the time my mom didn't expose it,
And then
telling
your
him.
mom was like rolling on the floor laughing at that.
And now when I tell my son that, he's like, yeah, right, the amount you've troubled your parents, maybe God is giving it back to you.
Your son says that?
Yeah.
So he's using your mom's dialogue back on you now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Auntie, you did a number on your child. What's one good habit your child forgets after a solid dose of dad time?
Sleeping on time. So, if my husband is in a good mood, he'll just tell him, come, let's play golf on PS5. And, that's that sweet spot that my son is like, oh, mama, sweet talker. Mama, I need to spend time with dad. I'm not getting enough time with him. He wants to play golf with me. Let me just go ahead and give him
Do
that
that.
kind of
Yeah.
time.
Poor dad.
Quality time, mama.
Yeah. I'm a social person. I'm a charmer. You told me be nice to people. Spend time with them.
Yeah,
Talk to
so-
them. This is my time.
So it's okay, 15 minutes late I'll sleep, but I'll make sure that morning I don't trouble you in waking up.
But what happens in the morning? I'm curious to know. Yeah. That
It's
backfires.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I put my husband back, on that duty that it's you because of
That he slept late, you wake him
so
up.
you wake him up now.
A toy you wish was never invented but is your child's favorite.
Oh, he loves Beyblades these days. I don't even know what a Beyblade is. My grandfather used to call it a lattu.
It is. It's a modern lattu,
Yeah,
actually.
and you know, I used to call it a top.
Yeah, we used to call it tops.
And the sound is so annoying. So I
Zip.
wish, yeah.
Zip.
I wish we didn't have that.
Yeah, we all do. Mother or boys. A classic phrase your mom used all the time. One you swore you would never say, but now catch yourself using constantly.
I can't think of any.
May I offer one?
Yes,
And
yes,
I'm wondering if this worked in your case. Okay, so तुम्हारे जब बच्चे होंगे तब तुम्हें मेरा डर समझ में आएगा.
That is true. You know,
Did she use that?
She's used that on me many times, and I do that with Aryaman. I'm like, when you become a parent, you will get to know, you know, how difficult it is.
Movie, this has been a lot of fun, and I hope you had as much fun as I did asking these questions.
I had a lot of fun. You know, I don't know if you're recording this, but
It is.
I was really nervous when I came in. You know, I'm like, oh, you know, I'm going to be in front of the camera talking, but you made sure that I was comfortable and, you know, free flow.
So, as promised, you do have a hamper. But I hope you know, take it
Okay,
with all
hamper.
that
Yeah.
spirit. So, as you know that I am into wellness for moms.
Yep.
So, whether it comes to mental, physical, or material wellness, I make these herbal powders at home. These are natural and they're very good for your skin. So I hope you do get a chance to use it, and I hope you do enjoy it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, I will use it. I'll use it today itself.
It was really wonderful having you. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
My name is Shobna, and I'm the founder of zenmoms.org, a platform dedicated to the holistic wellness of women and mothers of all ages and stages.